Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Darkest Timeline podcast. You probably guessed from the title, so probably don't need to tell you that. But hey, I'm a giver, what can I say? There'll be some stuff from the last week, probably be super depressing, but then hey, we'll get into some entertainment business, and it'll really liven things up. So, swings and roundabouts. If you are checking us out on YouTube, do us a favour and click for the subscribe, click for notifications, that way you get updated for the new videos. And if you're not watching us on YouTube, check us out on YouTube. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the Darkest Timeline podcast. So that sounds lovely. Oh, jeez. What an evening. Oh, sorry, just give me a minute to adjust. I just walked away from a work. I haven't walked away from it. I just done a workout. Because I had to get my jobs done. Something I had to learn as a younger man. Many moons ago, get your jobs done. My mother used to tell me that all the time. All the time. If you get your jobs done, then you've got time to do other things. And growing up, I was like, yeah, but if you do other things, then you've done other things and you've not done your jobs. So surely that's better. But ultimately, the jobs are still there. And you still have to do them. So yeah, it's one of those things that if you get your jobs done, time for other stuff later. So yeah, just finished the workout. Yeah, I've had a little bit of an injury. And obviously, as you can imagine, I've done all of the things that are recommended for injury. Rest the area. Don't do anything to injure it further. Lift light. And what I mean when I say that is I've done none of that, and I've just worked through the pain, knowing full well that there was a high chance it was going to make everything worse. So yeah, I've had a little bit of an injury one evening. I was lifting a bar from a seated position. I'm lying, I was putting a bar down whilst in a seated position, and my right elbow, like it was a mixture between like a click and a jar putting it down. And from that point on, it hurt. Was made worse. Spent a little bit of time playing a little bit of basketball with the girls. I say basketball, it's using a football on a basketball hoop. And I'm 6'2", and they're not. So But yeah, there's a couple of things whilst throwing the basketball. I was like, ooh, that tweaked it, like a real twisty, teary kind of thing. So yes, been working through an injury. Not a single thing that I've said up till this point was any of what I intended to talk about. And you know what that means, ladies and germs. That means that I know I haven't got anything to talk about. I could talk about my gravelly voice if you like. This is a thing. It's amazing. Just happens randomly. Probably the virus related in some way. I don't have the virus to my knowledge. But I have this voice thing. What I managed to work out is it's something to do with the combination of the medications that I take. And by medications I mean 2 asthma inhalers and nasal spray for hay fever, which I believe when you combine them in a certain combination, very much like Tim Burton's Batman when the Joker poisoned the chemicals, but they would only work if they were used in conjunction with each other. If I use them in a certain way, in a certain order, it seems to cause this throat thing. I've also got an earache, which is doing my treeing. It's been going on far too long. So there's all the ailments. Last few weeks I've been feeling like the podcast has been really depressing. And do you know something? What I was going to talk about this evening was going to be super depressing. And I'm honestly not sure how it would make me come across. And for that reason, I'm not going to. So, I'm skirting around the issue. The issue is that I don't have a lot to talk about. So we know it's going to be an hour and a half podcast of me filling space. It's not that, it just happened. What I mean when I say I don't have a lot to talk about, I don't have a lot to talk about in the last week. Not a great deal has happened. And that makes me like, oh, well, nothing's happened. So I've got nothing to talk about, and I've got a podcast to do. Obviously, when you look further down the list, there's loads of stuff to talk about. But, because there's been not a lot from the week, I panic. So, anyway, let's move on. I read a book. Now, I know what you're thinking. Cookie, didn't even know you could read, mate. And you're not far off, to be fair. I have the reading age of about, 8-year-old maybe. So yeah, reading's one of those things. As I like to say to people, I've read more books in the last 3 years than I've read in my entire life. It dwarfs. Up to the age of 37, you could probably count on, let's be generous and say 2 hands the number of books I'd read. Whereas now that's probably the number of books I read in a month. Apart from the last month, because in the last month I have read 1 book. I've already mentioned it, and the reason why I'm mentioning it again, I'm talking about it again, is because I finished said book. The book is, I went to get it because I wanted to make sure, I wanted to feel inspired by holding it in my hands and then realise that I'd taken it downstairs. The book is, I believe, called Enter Night. Now I have to look it up. It's the Metallica book. Did I mention that? Enter Night beer. Ooh. Metallica. Enter Night. The biography by Mick Wall. There are 2 different versions and their prices are very different. I wonder why. A few things about this book. One of them is, the guy that wrote it, I can't say I'm a huge fan. Which is then strange when I then tell you that since finishing the Metallica book, I've bought another book by the same person. Only because I saw the book and was like, oh, that looks super interesting. Oh, I bet that's a good read. And then I saw the author and was like, holy shit, that's the book, that's the guy that's written the book I'm reading at the moment. It's a Led Zeppelin book, like 50 years of Led Zeppelin, I think it is. So I
can't remember where we were up to last we spoke. I finished the book. Very much a book that just gets quicker and quicker and quicker as it goes through. Like the first third of the book is very much Lazaruch's early years, James Hetfield's early years, a little bit about Dave Mustaine, a tiny little bit about Ron McGovern, a lot more about Cliff Burton, the release of Kill 'Em All, the recording and release of Ride the Lightning, and then it sort of accelerates. So the conversation about the recording and release of Master of Puppets, recording and release of obviously Cliff's death, the recording and release of Injustice for All, the Black Album, and then I'm starting to wonder whether I've already told you I've finished this book. I don't think I can have done. When did I go into town? It's probably not the time to work this out. I'm going to have to carry on like I haven't told you I've finished it. Some upsides to the book. It talks very poorly about Load, Reload and that era. Likewise, it talks very poorly about St. Anger. Speaks reasonably highly about Death Magnetic. Doesn't talk overly highly about S&M, which I didn't overly agree with. There's a mention of an album that I'd completely forgotten about its existence, but also goes on to say about how its existence has been forgotten about. So I was a bit like, oh, at least it kind of... The book sort of shared a lot of my opinions, which is sort of strange when I'm saying I don't really like the author. Shortest version is, the author is clearly somebody who, through the entire book, saw himself as a friend, I guess, of Lazaruch. And I feel, personally, for somebody who's writing a biography, that that's not a great place to start from. Each of the members of that band are very different, especially now. They're all very different to each other. And to consider yourself to be a friend of one of the members is going to then lean more towards that person and their opinion. There are various points where the author doesn't talk overly highly of James Hetfield. I knew that James Hetfield had taken a lot of stick over the years for various ways of living. I felt that that was in some ways remedied by his being on the Joe Rogan podcast. Because it was an opportunity for him to get his opinion across, talking to somebody who shared a lot of his opinions, and somebody who in a lot of ways I largely respect. It kind of evened the balance. Basically, there was the whole thing about him and his hunting. I'm not a huge fan of hunting. I'm a vegetarian. But there's a part of me that sees... I guess I kind of respect it. Chris Pratt got into a lot of trouble because he'd done this thing about killing and like preparing the meat of an animal. Got into a lot of trouble for it. Not so much trouble, but he had a lot of backlash. And his sort of take was, this food, this meat will feed my family. There's no waste, and so on and so forth. Joe Rogan, big hunter, bow hunter. I think the further removed you are from pulling a trigger on a gun, I think I respect it more. And ultimately, you know, it is where we came from. We were hunter-gatherers, so there's that aspect. So I listened to James Hetfield talk about his views around things like that, and I felt that in a lot of ways it kind of redeemed him, because that's a certain view. He's not the only person in the world that thinks like that. So it was kind of like, fair enough. If I'm honest, because of his portrayal in the book, it did make me think less of him. There are a lot of things that I didn't know about him and his personality, and now I know them. I'm like, I do not agree with those views, and it has tinted my view of him, but I don't have to agree with his views to like his music. I think is ultimately where that goes. Naive in some ways, I guess, but you know, it would need to be something fairly substantial for me to stop enjoying the music that he makes, and I've been through pretty much all of it. You know, I always say I lived through Load, Reload, St Anger. I once told somebody that Load was possibly the best album ever made. It haunts me. It really does. It haunts me. The naivete of youth, I guess. So I read the book. It was longer. It took me a month to read. It might have even taken longer. Might have been more like a 6 month. Not 6 months. Jesus, 6 weeks. It was just a weighty book. We're letting the laptop go dark. I think I did it last week. I'm scared. So yeah, I finished the book. You know, it ultimately ends talking about sort of where Metallica are going to go from where they are at the point at the end of the book. It doesn't cover Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Is that you? Because I always just call it Hardwired. H. Will it be under H? It will not. Will it be under M? It will not, because apparently I don't have it on my phone. Is that true? Artists. M. Metallica. Oh, there. I do not have it on my phone. That's amazing. Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Okay. That was a longer process than it needed to be. So where we are now compared to where the book finishes, you know, there is a little bit missing, but round about the sort of the Death Magnetic and beyond point, I imagine it's largely been very similar. There's been they had a couple of albums, like side albums. They're just releasing S&M 2, which I hate to say it, but everything I've heard from it sounds pretty awful. Honestly, don't know what the deal there is. And there was an acoustic album, that All Within My Hands. I think it was like a charity thing. Not great. So yes, was a book very interesting. I did sort of say I'd sort of let you know once I'd finished it. I don't talk about all the books, I talk about some of the books. There was a time where I was going to talk more about books, but as weeks go by, I imagined that was largely going to be, I read this page and this happened. So I talk about some books that have bigger impact than others, some in a negative way, some in no, not really. It's mostly a negative way, isn't it? But you know, those are often the things that stand out. I was going to talk about some of the DC fandom stuff, but realised that not a lot of my reviews of things were going to be great. Everybody's losing their mind over the Batman. And I'm like, yeah, it looks good. But I think it's just turned into a competition of, let's make it dark and gritty. Let's make it dark and gritty. Can we make it darker? Can we make it grittier? I think ultimately we're forgetting that we're talking about, you know, a man that dresses as a bat. But, like I say, I was going to talk about it, and I have a little, but I'm not going to dwell. That is all from the week, and it's not even from the week. It's just I finished a book. It's a big achievement for me. And of all the things I could talk about now, I'm trying to keep it light today. So let's talk about some other shit, shall we? We're straight into Pet Love, Pet Hate, and I've done that thing. I can't imagine people are going to like it because I've done it already once during this segment, but I'm going to do it again. This week's Pet Love is phone reminders. I have a terrible memory. Terrible. When I was a child, probably not a child, more of a teenager. You know, when you've got that little bit of responsibility, like you have to do things. I would just forget. There was, and don't get me wrong, there was a percentage of me that didn't want to do things, you know, jobs and things like that. So that was probably why I would forget. But and that came across as laziness. I was lazy, so you know that's probably why. But ultimately, it was just I just couldn't remember things. Weirdly, like X number of years later, you know, where I am now, I look back and there's so much that I don't remember. I started to wonder if it's some sort of condition. I kind of work on the principle that if somebody says to me, do you remember this? That more often than not I'm like, yeah, I do. So I just need somebody to say that all the time. Because I got to the point that I'm like, I didn't remember, I forgot. And it sounded like an excuse, but it genuinely wasn't. I just don't remember stuff. I am the guy that walks into every room and goes, what are you coming here for? You know, that's me. I've forgotten to do stuff that I've been repeating over and over again. Remember to do this, remember to do this, remember to do this, remember to do this. Walk out the room, go into another room, because I've stopped repeating it. I'm like, what was I supposed to do? Why can't I remember? That's the level we're at. I tried a notebook. For a real short amount of time I tried a notebook. And you know the joke that's coming. Until I forgot to take the notebook with me the places I went. So I was like, this notebook system is not working. Then came the addition of set a reminder on your phone. We've all heard that phrase. Set a reminder on your phone, that way you won't forget. And it's a fantastic system for me, because I will forget. I set reminders on my phone that are shopping lists for the shop I'm going to. Like, I go to Tesco's every now and then, get some bits. And when I go, before I go, usually the day of or the day before, I start writing a reminder, and I estimate the time that I'm going to go to Tesco. I set the reminder to go off half an hour before I'm about to go, to remind me in case there's anything I've forgotten. Unpack that one, ladies and germs. Drinking a coffee at 10 to 9. Sure that'll go well. Things got a little late this evening. I've not even had my tea yet. So I love a good phone reminder. And you know what I love even more than a good phone reminder? Doing the thing that I've set a reminder for before the reminder goes off. Love it. Ooh, that's like a double pet love. Phone reminders and doing the thing before the reminder goes off. Love it. So, this week's pet love is phone reminders. This week's pet hate is phone reminders. So, here's how it breaks down. For how much I love them, because they do save me a lot, largely. I have been in a situation, and you set a reminder on your phone, and for some reason it's like, I'm not going to remind you about that. Tough. Those are the times that I'm like, you had one job. The fuck? But the reason that this week's pet love and pet hate are the same as they have been previously, if you're anything like me, I'll give you an example. It's not an example, it's exactly how it is. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 reminders on my phone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So half of them are weekly. One of them is fortnightly. One of them is set for a week today. One of them is set for January. One of them is set for the end of October. One is set for Wednesday. No, 2 are set for Wednesday and 1 is set for tomorrow. It's a shitload of reminders. But, as we said, I'm shit at remembering stuff, so I need them. But if you're anything like me, with the number of reminders you've got there, every single time you check your phone, it's there. It's on the screen. New reminder. And you look at it and you go, oh, fuck, I haven't done that. I'll do it in a minute. Actually, no. No, I won't. I'll do it in half an hour. Should I move the reminder on? No, I'll leave it for now, because then it's there on the screen. So if I check my phone again, I know it's there and I know I need to do it. An hour later, check your phone. I didn't do that thing. I'm not going to be able to do it now. Will I be able to do it? Can I do it later? Tell you what, I'll leave it there for now. Actually, no. What I'll do is I'll move it on. I'll move it on until this evening. So you go into your phone, you change a reminder that was set for 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, that's the answer. Set it. Fire and forget. I've got a reminder on my phone that I've been snoozing. One of the Wednesday ones, I've been snoozing that for 2 weeks. And here's the thing. It's a job I went to do. And I went to do it. I need to print a photograph. So, I've got a photo frame. I want to put a photo, or maybe a collection of photos of my girls in this photo frame. And I had this one picture which I'd put two together to make one picture. Looked lovely. It was like kind of like a mirror image thing. They were both doing a very similar thing. They were in a very similar setting. I was like, that picture's awesome. I want to get that printed, and then I'll get one of the little guy in a similar setting, and then that's that. I got to put them in the frame. I went to do the job. I'm in the shop doing the job, and the printer is like, cool, select your picture. I was like, that one, and it went, cool, this is what it'll look like. I was like, all right, you're cutting off the two people in the picture. That's awesome. And since then, I'm like, I'll just print the pictures separately. So I need to remember to go and do that. Yeah, 2 weeks currently. And I'm convinced I'm going to do it any day now. Wednesday, apparently. I'll keep you posted. So the reason that I love them and hate them is I just spend my life diarying them on. You know, the ones that go off weekly, I'm like, I'll do it in a minute. But mostly they get done that day because they have to be done. That's why they're set. Like podcast stuff. But some of them, I'm like, I'll do it in a minute. So, this week's Pet Love, Pet Hate ultimately is the same thing because I love and hate phone reminders. I watched some films. Know the word some. I watched a movie last night just for shits and giggles. I don't know if I mentioned this last time. I've been reading through this Metallica book, so I've been going on this journey through history. And then I've done like a playlist where I was listening to music. So I think I did mention this. I start at Ride the Lightning, go all the way up to Load, nothing from Load, nothing from Reload, 3 songs from St. Anger, S&M's in there as well, and then the current stuff, Death Magnetic, Hardwired Soft Strut. But it made me want to look at because like this stuff mentioned in the books about the films. So I'd watched Year and a Half in the Life of Metallica, which I believe I must have told you about. And I watched Some Kind of Monster. So, Some Kind of Monster gets a lot of flack. There's a lot about it in the book, but it gets a lot of flack because it shows this huge, like this mega band as fragile. I've seen it a few times. I was, one of the few people I know who have seen it more than once. I've seen it a few times, not more than once, a few times. I personally believe it has its place in Metallica history, just like I believe St. Anger has its place in Metallica history. Ultimately, they needed to do a piss-poor album to get it out of their system, to close certain chapters of certain books, to be able to make what I consider, I've been listening to it recently, what I consider to be one of the best Metallica albums, which is Death Magnetic. So I believe the movie has a place. So I watched it, and I was like, I was very critical this time. I was like, I've read a lot about it. And I was like, do you know what's the worst thing about this film? It's a collection of people who are just out for themselves. They are attached to Metallica, but they don't give a shit. They are just in it for themselves. The therapist only cares about himself, doesn't care about them. The filmmakers, they only care about themselves, don't care about the band. Bob Rock only cared about himself, didn't care about them. It was just a collection of people that didn't care. Just, a lot of ways it felt like they were like feeding off them. And you got to think this is a multi-million dollar, hundreds of millions of dollars. What is it Jason Newsted said in it? Squillions and squillions of dollars. And he's right. I think there's a bit in the book that talks about how, like, that year, through like various revenue streams, they were going to make like $280 million. And then there was more on top of that for something. So, yeah, this time I watched it with a certain eye and just realised that it's just a collection of people that are just out for themselves. Which, again, it just comes back to that sadness of fame. People just see you as a meal ticket, a cash cow, a whatever, just a way for them to further themselves rather than you furthering yourself. Just sad, really. A lot of it's sad, The whole Jason thing, I always felt sorry for Jason. Weirdly, in the book, though, the book sort of details more about him as a person, and just sort of goes on to say that there was always this sadness that was there. It wasn't just their constant berating of him. There was always this sadness there. So I can sympathise and understand that sort of thing. So yeah, just very sad, all of it, really. I watched an actual movie, and then I watched another movie. This is the level we're at, people. From none to squillions. I watched the Netflix original, The Old Guard. A little bit up and down on this one. So, knew it was coming out, then it came out. Got a lot of hype at the time. I was like, I want to see that film for a few reasons. Immortal Soldiers sort of angle, I'm already on board. Charlize Theron, definitely on board. Look cool, based on a comic, blah 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 blah. I'm in. We're supposed to watch it on a particular night, and then something had come out, something had happened which had delayed things, and Leanne had ended up reading some reviews of the film, which the film wasn't reviewed very highly. She's like, this film's not got very good reviews. So then it turned into this, are we watching it, are we not? We've got other stuff to watch, so it was a bit like, well, should we just not bother, and I'll watch it on my own? No, let's still watch it. Okay, let's still watch it. So we watched it. And if you've seen any kind of trailer for that film, unfortunately you've seen one of the better bits of it. I know how trailers work, don't worry. I was asked once it finished for my review. My review was, it was good, but it was slow. It's a 2-hour film, and yeah, it was a 2-hour film. That's all I'll say on that. There's some stuff right at the very beginning. It's very sort of like, it grabs you straight away. But like I say, if you've seen any trailers, you'll have seen that bit. And then it just sort of like, it gets quite slow. And I always look at things like that as like, well, why? Obviously, there's a lot of special effects. In a lot of ways, you have to do people getting injured and then getting healed. So that probably takes a lot to do. As a lot of films do, it all work towards a particular sort of end. Me being me, there was a couple of things that I'd kind of worked out. You know, when a film goes, hey, here's a character. This character's doing this. When a film does that, I go, bad guy. And then, shockingly, dun dun dun, bad guy. I'm like, yeah, I knew that. So it goes on a bit, and it's like, hey, here's another character. They're doing this. Bad guy. Dun dun dun, bad guy. I'm like, I know. Hey, we're going to tell you this piece of information. It doesn't matter at all. So that's what's going on in the film. That's exactly part of the story. Guess what? That was actually part of the story. It's like, I've been told that I overanalyze films. I think that comes from, I'll tell you a little bit of a story. I'm not going to tell it all because it'll take a really long time. But years and years and years ago, I didn't see a twist in a film. That film was Sixth Sense. I didn't know he was dead. Spoilers, by the way. Shit. Until the end, like when you're supposed to work it out. And I had a conversation with my father on the phone. And I was like, man, I can't believe it. Could you believe that he was, spoilers, he was dead all that time? And he was like, well, yeah, it was obvious. No, it wasn't. And we got into this big argument, debate, whatever. And I think since then I've been a bit like, I don't want to get caught out by a film again. Because, when you go back and look at it, it's like, oh yeah, it was kind of obvious. Fight Club, stuff like that. The films that are famous for having twists. So I just sit and I'm like, oh my god, I need to analyse what's happening right now. But I do it too much. So when a film's trying to shock you, even if it's just a little bit, I'm like, yeah, I knew that. So yeah, when a film goes, here's a character, yeah, I'm like, bad guy. Here's something that you don't need to know right now. I'm like, plot twist. We're going to mention another character who's not in the film. They'll be in it at the end. Stuff like that. So I overanalyze things. And ultimately it ruins things for me. I get that. And that might lead me to give a lesser review. I found recently that I feel compelled to give bad reviews because for some reason I think that if I don't give something a bad review, it's like I'm not paying attention. I don't know. Unpack that one. What am I unpacking to do today? I will come to something shortly. And I'm like, I've got to give it a bad review because I can't say it's good or it's perfect. Got to give it a bad review. The Old Guard is it largely does what it says on the tin. Depends what you're looking for. There's not a huge amount of depth. Back end of the film is very good. Yeah, it was fine. I mean, 6.5, 7 out of 10 if you want to score. That sort of area. So yeah. I watched another film. I watched a film last night. Film I've been talking about for a long time. Film that I really wanted to see, so much so that I didn't watch it. I watched El Camino. So you guys know the story. Breaking Bad, hands down my favourite all-time TV show. I think it is categorically the best TV show. And you've been on with me on the ride. And a large reason why I rewatched Breaking Bad recently was because of El Camino. I wanted to be ready, I wanted to be prepped, I wanted to be up to date with the information needed to watch that film. But there was a problem. if there's one thing you can say about Breaking Bad, and I think this came out a lot around the time of the mention of El Camino and stuff like that. If there's one thing you can say about Breaking Bad, kind of ties everything up at the end, doesn't it? So, the argument would be, some people could maybe say no. And I get that. I do. But I didn't need any more. It came out at reasonable reviews. I think it was one of the first Netflix movies that had a cinema release, possibly. So, you know, it was a big thing. But also, I know that Aaron Paul really struggled to leave the role of Jesse Pinkman behind. Just like, what's his name? Charlie Hunnam really struggled to leave the role of Jax Teller behind. I get it, I understand it. When you pour a massive amount in, you put a lot of emotion in, you put a lot of yourself into it. You know, do we need to talk about playing the Joker? Let's just leave it there. When you put a lot in, a piece of you's left behind. I get it, but you know, you're an actor. Move on. There's other projects out there in the world. So you know, like I say, I get it, but so I'd heard some of the reviews saying that ultimately, even though it was a film and it was an event and so on and so forth, it was just another episode. It's like, oh, we didn't quite fully finish it up, so here's another episode. Which I think I might have been more okay with if they'd have just been like, oh, what, you want another episode? Well, here's another episode. There, that's the end. So, having watched it, there's a few things I have to say about it. One, and unfortunately, let's get this out of the way first. Unfortunately, I do feel largely like it wasn't necessary. I don't feel that it pushed the story on any, because the story was largely standalone. So there, I've said it. That is that. I thought there were a lot of characters that played their parts very well. To give him all of his dues, Aaron Paul's very good in it. The guy that plays Badger was good. Skinny Pete, the guy that plays Skinny Pete, I think he did an amazing job playing that role. But I feel that his pinnacle of playing that role was actually in that film. I thought he was really good. Outside of that, largely unnecessary. Couple of comments. One, anybody that hasn't seen it, well, this won't mean anything, but anybody has seen it, you know. I wrote on my list, fucking Todd. There are certain characters that have been in certain things that I have absolutely despised. Connor in Angel. Todd is possibly one of the most vile creations. He's one of those people that he just Like when you're watching him, he makes your skin crawl. One of those things, though, obviously because there'd been this big gap, a few people that were in it, it's supposed to be like the same day as the last episode. A lot of the people that were in it had put on quite a lot of weight, Todd being one of them. His character is vile. Obviously he's supposed to be, I get that. I think there's also some kind of, I think he's supposed to be portraying some kind of, I don't know if it's like a learning difficulty, like a disability. I think he's supposedly portraying, or he's portraying a true sociopath. Like the way like somebody dies and he has no emotion whatsoever. So it could be that, or he could have sort of a slight learning difficulty, or maybe a bit of both. But yeah, I got like halfway through this film and I was just like, oh god, I'd almost forgotten how much I despised that character. And in a lot of ways, he's worse in El Camino. This is a spoiler, so take that as it in its truest meaning. Bryan Cranston's in it. Walter's in it. There's a flashback and a scene in a diner. I don't know what the freaking hell they were thinking, but either they have digitally removed his hair, or they've given him like a bald cap kind of situation. All I could think the whole time I was watching it was just shave your head. Just shave your head. It's hair, it grows back. It'll be fine. I can only presume, like, for whatever other roles he had going on, that wasn't an option. But Jesus, it looked super weird. Whatever the hell they'd done, he just had this weird shaped head. It looked really weird. Quite a few returning characters through flashbacks or just because, which is cool. It was reasonably enjoyable. It just wasn't necessary, in my opinion. That's kind of that. I've watched some TV. I've done it all this week. Done it all. Jeez, done it all. Right, well, let's rattle through these because some of them, they're all ongoing. I haven't finished any of them. Umbrella Academy. I've watched 2 episodes since the last time I mentioned it. One of them was like completely pointless episode. Completely pointless. Nothing happened in it. I've not been fully on board with this series, as I've already mentioned, because of the issues I've already mentioned. The moment you introduce time travel into anything, I immediately lose interest, because time travel is never done right. Except at the end of Deadpool 2. But then I watched another episode which I did not have high hopes for at all, and that turned out to be one of the best episodes there's been so far. So a real contrast between those 2 episodes. It feels very much like I just kind of want to get it finished up. I never think that's overly great. If you try and just get through something, I think maybe it is a good thing. Maybe I just want to know what happens. Maybe it's that. But I do feel very much like I just want to know. I'll keep plugging away at it. I think this series has more episodes. I think there's like 12 episodes, and I think I might be 5, 6, 7 episodes in it, possibly. Don't know. What I can tell you is, well, I can't. I was just surreptitiously looking at something to tell you that I was going to watch something. The internet has lied to me. So, bad internet. That's very bad internet. I'll keep you posted with the Umbrella Academy stuff. Yeah. Speaking of series that I'm plugging away at, I watched 2, maybe 3 episodes of series 1 of What We Do in the Shadows. Taking me a long time to get through this, not because it's not good. I have to sit and I have to watch it. I can't be distracted. I can't have it on when I'm supposed to be doing other stuff because it's too much of a distraction. So I have to be able to dedicate the time to sit down and watch it. And as I'm sure you can understand and know by now, that is very limited time in my existence. But Sunday morning I had the opportunity to sit down and watch it. I say that my internet has been shocking recently, to the point that I think I'm actually going to have to contact them and say, yeah, what the F's going on here then? So yeah, so it took me it was quite painful to try and watch it, but I did get through at least 2 episodes, possibly 3. It's fantastic. It really is. It's the best thing I've seen on TV for a while. It's just really good. And like with anything that is good, it's very hard to review. I might do a sort of a series 1 review, maybe, when I get sort of further. When I get to that point, there was an episode that had loads of cameos in. Batista was in it, or Dave Batista as he is now. Tilda Swinton, the 2 Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement, Jesus Christ, were in it. One of the other guys from the film was in it, and I think there was somebody else. I can't think. All in the same episode. Very good. It's just, yeah, it's fantastic. It's super fun, super enjoyable. Just, yeah, great TV. I was dubious about it as well when I started. Something else that I have been watching, getting through. You'll know about my enjoyment of the car shows, the transforming car shows, not Transformers. Taking, old cars and transforming them into cool cars. I've watched a series of these. One of those is Rust Valley Restorers. Shockingly, on Netflix the other day, and I'm like, why is Rust Valley Restorers saying that it's trending or whatever Netflix has? Turns out, new episodes. I'm like, wow, that show has a fast turnaround. I am not complaining. I enjoy it. I started that. I'm 3 or 4 episodes into that. Don't know how many there are in this series, but it's enjoyable. I'm glad they've got the Destruction Derby episode out of the way, because I really don't like those episodes, as I've mentioned previously. It's good. I'm enjoying it. Seems to be a lot more. Oh, this person who works in the shop, they're restoring a car. Let's follow them. Like, yeah, okay. But you know, still fun. Let's talk about games. Games-wise, it's all very much of a muchness. I have again played the Avengers beta because it was available again this weekend. What I can say is it saved my progress from the last time. On one hand, cool. On the other hand, nothing new to play. So it was a bit like, this game doesn't have the depth to not have new stuff to play. So I played it a little bit. Did like a couple of missions, the bigger missions. Was like, yeah, this game is... It just feels dated. It feels like a game from older generations. And if it was, that'd be acceptable, but it's not. So it's not acceptable. So I played it for a little bit, but then I went back to playing Ghost of Tsushima. I fully expected to finish that game last night. I can confirm that I did not finish that game last night. It was one of those where it was like, what I thought was the last mission turned out to be like, oh, before we do that, let's go and do this. Okay, that's fair. Oh, and before we do it, let's go and do this as well. Yeah, alright. Oh, let's just do this real quick before we go. Alright then. And then it was like, right, let's do it now. Obviously this is going to be like a big battle, which it was. I thought that would be the end. It was not. And I looked at the time, I was like, I'll save it there, I'll come back. Finishing that mission also unlocked that area which revealed that there's a load of stuff I haven't collected. So I'm going to go and collect all the bits and bobs and then go and do the next mission. I don't know if that's the last mission. Obviously, having not finished it, I can't give you the full review. But like I say, I think I'm close to the end at this point in time. Just a quick aside. Recently discovered. I want to get into the Oculus Link. That's my next big thing. To the point that I think I will not get a next gen console and instead put that money into getting a graphics card. I found an interesting thing through reading a review for a cable, a link cable. Found that there's a way to do like streaming to the Oculus Quest without a cable. You can use a thing called virtual desktop, which is cheaper than pretty much every single cable I've seen. And a review video I watched recently of one of the VR guys that I kind of tune into reviewed the virtual desktop setup better than the official Oculus Link cable. So that was like sweet, because there was a part of me that was probably going to end up looking at getting the official cable, and that was like, everybody said it's like $80, but I think it was also £80. So that was going to be a hard no, but probably also a yes. So what it's brought me back to is I need to find enough money to fit my PC with a graphics card, and then ideally get a couple of games. So as with these sorts of things, it's not just the price of the graphics card I have to take into account, and that is why I haven't done it yet. Yeah. So I was just a thing. I was just looking at the Quest and remembered that was something I discovered recently. So there we go. That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me on this wild ride, and until next time, I'll say bye.
So there you go. What do you think's that? Another one done. Another one gone. Another week gone. It'll be nearly that time before long, and we can't talk about that time now, obviously. But it will be. YouTube watchers, do subscribe. It's the right thing to do. And, you know, you want to do the right thing. Even though the voices tell you not to. Everybody jump over to cookiecast.com. Check us out over there. Send us some social media love. Send us an email. Send us a tweet. If you send us one of those, I'll read it out on air. Unless it's got the rude words in. Then I'll probably still read it out. So there we go. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye. And I'll see you then. Bye!